Hello everyone and welcome back to the TICR, the Tripwire Interactive Community Report. My name is Hrg Creasy, Community Manager here at Tripwire, and the TICR is how we tell you what we're up to. This includes both everything inside the studios, as well as everything our partners are doing as part of the Tripwire Presents publishing group. So today, it's going to be all internal. We're talking about Killing Floor 2, Maneater, and Rising Storm 2 Vietnam. First up, we have Killing Floor 2 and the recently released Killing Floor Winter Beta. You can try it out today and give us your feedback, but let me go over some of the highlights of the things you'll see either in the beta or later this year as part of the full release across all platforms. We've got a brand new map, Elysium, where even the souls of the dead Zeds won't leave you alone. And there's some mysteries at play here, so be sure to search around and see what you can find. But you aren't going it alone. We've got a brand new Hrg Weapon, the Vampire, which will help medics weaponize the blood of their enemies and send it back as a violent projectile, as well as the Frost Fang, a shotgun axe for those berserkers and supports out there. The shells will help you freeze your enemies, the axe part will help you shatter them into little bits. And to check out all the rest on all the changes and bug fixes we've made, be sure to read the full changelog currently in the forums. Next up, Maneater. So Maneater has just launched onto the next generation consoles with both new SKUs for digital and retail customers and fans. Now, if you were already a fan and owned it on PlayStation 4 or Xbox One, you get a free upgrade to the next generation platform if you choose to acquire one of those platforms. So PS4 to PS5, Xbox One to Xbox Series S and X. Now, with this upgrade comes 4K, HDR, and ray tracing. Now, important note, ray tracing will be available at some point post-launch. So that'll be coming in the coming days, possibly weeks. Stay tuned and we'll keep you updated. But it was for the better experience for all players for that feature to be slightly delayed. Oh, and one more thing. One of our great systems designers here at Tripwire Interactive, Paul Tessman, is going to be joining the Extra Life charity race. And as part, he's going to be doing a Maneater speedrun and going for the world record. So that's going to be on November 14th, so be sure to tune in and keep an eye on our social channels for more exact timing on when that's going to happen. Next up, Vietnam. Vietnam fans will know that we have recently shipped update 1.5.4, which addressed some of the remaining issues from the previous launch on the Epic Games Store a few weeks ago. Now, we know some players are still having and reporting some issues with the voice over IP systems, and we are investigating those and hope to have a fix out in the coming days and weeks, as that is now our current primary focus. Now, moving on to our question and answer section, which I know a lot of you are waiting here for. We're going to do things a little bit differently this time. We're just going to do a couple recorded questions with one of your favorite personalities, Alan Wilson, Vice President of Tripwire Interactive. And the rest of the answers are going to be put into a written form. So please let us know which way you like better, and we'll take your feedback into account as we continue to move ahead. So without further ado, let me dial Alan in to the program. And hello, Alan. Thank you for taking time out of your busy day to join us and help answering some of the community's questions. DZ Knots wants to know, is there a train of thought that, or there is a train of thought that one of the reasons RS2 makes quote unquote no revenue is because DLC, the cosmetics, can't be seen by the player who bought it. Would you guys agree? And how important do you think this is?
I mean, first off, no, I mean, it's not that we make no revenue. If we made no revenue on these things, updates would have ceased a long time ago. It's a complicated topic, especially around a game like any of the RO games, just because there's the practicality of what sort of cosmetics, what sort of DLC can we throw in there. It's a competitive multiplayer game based in realism. Therefore, throwing in sort of laser-guided munitions and anything else ain't going to work terribly well. Throwing in weapons that are at risk of unbalancing multiplayer matches, all of this is a bad idea. This is why we went. We just did the simple cosmetics with Vietnam. At least in that period, some sort of variation, and if you like, they wouldn't have called it cosmetics in the day, but some sort of variation in uniform, is acceptable and sensible, and all the rest of it. Yeah, this is the thing that people need to remember is that these are games not that have not been built with sort of 200 or 300 man teams. These are Tripwire's not that and not that big. Therefore, the systems that we want in that we put into Vietnam, they were baked in probably from about, I'm trying to think of it exactly. They were probably being designed and built in around 2015. That's 5 years ago already. For release in 2017. And changing that up, late in a game's lifetime. If it's a game that's selling tens of millions of units and all the rest of it, people can, if it's sort of War Thunder or World of Tanks or something, yeah, sure. I mean, it's, those are games that spew streams of money. If you've got those sort of massive streams of money, you can afford to, maintain big support teams. And that's always, late in the life cycle is always the issue for us. It's the support teams.
This comes from multiple people, so I'm not going to kind of put any names out there because there were several people in the thread who mentioned this, and it's come up many times before. So kind of wanted to put it on record here. What would be like some of the cons to taking some of our older titles, such as Red Orchestra 2, for example, and why don't we make it free to play, something like that?
Yeah, I mean, you're back at... I suppose it depends. Well, hang on. It depends on what people mean. If they're asking the question, take it to a free-to-play with some sort of in-game monetization. Again, it's that thing. It's a huge shift. I mean, that's building in a whole system that would generate the sort of revenue that you would normally get from game sales is a massive switch. We don't have a huge amount of experience around monetizing the in-game stuff to that level and living only off the in-game stuff. So it would be a huge change. I mean, it's something we've thought about over the years, but never. It just doesn't sort of fit our user base historically. It's all the stuff we do in game. I guess we've always thought of that as generating cash to enable us to go on supporting the game, or to support at a high level. The actual sales of the game itself are really sort of paying for the game and a decent chunk of the ongoing support. So it's kind of there's a juggling match there, a juggling thing there, and it's for us to go. And here's the other thing: is when Tripwire is releasing, it's kind of living off one game at a time, and we're kind of growing beyond that now. But when you're living off one game at a time, if a free-to-play game tanks, you've got no money, and you kiss the company goodbye. At least if you've got a game that, fortunately, knock on wood, we've never had, a game tank on us. Thank you all. So it's, that hasn't been an issue, but at least you're earning something. I mean, as anyone who has run a business knows, it's a delicate balancing act. I mean, from when we put out a new game, there's that point when, first off, you're paying back all the investment you've made to build that game. Then, once you get beyond that point, yay, we were making some profit. You've got to bank enough profit from that to keep the company going through the development of the next game. I mean, that's 2 or 3 years. On top, so we're really looking at the game sales themselves to provide the future of the company. Pay for the game you've already built. Otherwise you just go broke. Provide for the next steps for the company, and provide for a level of support for the existing title, because that support for the existing titles has always been important to us. But the point about, it's the one we learned off Killing Floor 1 in the first place, and have rolled steadily forward and looked for ways to do over the years, is selling DLC, in-game items, whatever it is, provides an added level of income, which can then be dedicated towards just the ongoing support of the game itself. Because there's another juggling match you're trying to play, and a thing we used to do, and it was horrendous, was you'd have people working on one game this week, and can you do some DLC for this next week? And now you're on that game. It was a very inefficient way to work, and B, very, very hard on people. Now we've kind of tried to grow up and do things slightly more professionally. It comes down to the fact that, and Vietnam's a good example. There's a point when the revenue that is being generated doesn't support a full-time team. And when you kind of get to that, and by full-time team, it's that thing that you're looking at. great. I can afford 3 people. What's that going to be? A coder, a level designer, and QA. I'm going to do some. Can you do some? You've got to have that complete set of skills, and ideally, you want you want a complete set of skills in a team that is dedicated to the support of that game. Because otherwise, then you get into the situation where people are coming onto it who may not have done it for either for a lot, worked on that title either for a very long time, or have never worked on it. And we've seen some of the impact of that with the EGS release. People who are inexperienced with that code base, that game, and how to test it, and all the rest of it. It has risk associated with it. So it's to provide that that longevity of support, you need to provide that longevity for a team. And there comes a point that there's a critical mass there, where once you drop below, once the projected revenue, however you look at it, drops below a certain point, you can't maintain a fully functional full-time team. And then, then you get into the how do we do this? Do we have a team that works on this game 3 months of the year? Where do we get them from? What are they doing the rest of the time? And it all gets really messy. As people gathered, we put a team together to do the run for the EGS release, with all the pros and cons around that, and off the back of all that's gone on this year, I have a little bit of spare resource I can use to throw at I did some quality of life updates. Looks like a little bit of new content. Either later this year or early next year. But again, I'm juggling around. When can we get QA resource? When can we get when can I get all the pieces of the puzzle together to get this work done? And it's back to that original the original question. All what you're looking for, what we look for from the from all the in-game items, DLC, and all the rest of it, is to provide a revenue stream that will support a team. It's a feedback loop kind of thing where.
To quote you earlier, it's a delicate balancing act.
Yeah, the other one that has been mentioned in the past is why not take one of the old games and just make it free? I mean, it's actually. We could do something like we actually talked about it last year before with RO1 when the Darkest Hour crew were up to something with RO1 and adding more stuff, because they're still adding stuff to RO1 today, which is staggering, crazy, wonderful. I mean, we actually talked about why don't we just make the game free? I hate to say it, one of the arguments against doing that right now is that I think all of us have got an ever-growing backlog of free games, which seem to be coming at us from all over the place, free or almost free games. And so we haven't really taken it too seriously, because we could make something like RO1 free, but would anyone care? I don't know.
So thank you, Alan, for taking your time and answering these questions today.
My pleasure.
And I also want to take this time to thank you, our viewers, for tuning in. And if you asked one of our questions, thank you for being one of those users who submitted them to us. We'll be opening for new questions probably in the new year. So this is probably going to be our last ticker of the year. So on that note, I want to wish everybody out there a happy holiday season and an even better new year. So signing off till 2021 from Tripwire Interactive.